I'm taking a page out of Peter McKinnon's book where he does 2 Minute Tuesday to cover photography and videography tips, and making 3 Minute Thursday where we will be covering cooking tips instead of cameras and film. These cooking tip videos will range from things that the majority of people may already know, or things that you may never even have heard of before. The importance of these videos is to incorporate them into our day-to-day cooking so we can make food tastier, more efficient, or just to experiment with something new. So without further ado, let's hop into episode number 1. For this video, we're going to be talking pasta water. Did you ever order pasta from an Italian place and you're just in shock at how good it is? And it could be that great sauce, but the underlying pasta itself is really good too. For today's tip, we are going to cover when and how much salt you should add to your pasta water to get you closer to that restaurant quality pasta. Let's get when to salt your pasta out of the way. The salt should be added and dissolved prior to adding your pasta to the boiling water. A lot of people will tell you to add your salt after the water has boiled, as if you add it before, it'll increase the boiling time. And while they are correct, we're literally talking about a couple minutes, so it's really not a big deal. So unless you're living some ultra efficient life where that is just completely unacceptable to you, just make sure that the salt is added and dissolved prior to adding the pasta so that salt can work its magic when it boils. If you've seen some of my videos in the past, you know that I preach the importance of salt in a dish, and I do not hold back when it comes to seasoning. But before we go and pour in a cup or two of salt into our pasta water, how much do we actually want to add? A lot of well-respected chefs will say 2 tablespoons of salt for every 1 gallon of water. And in these cases, they are generally referring to coarse kosher salt. If you are using a type of salt that may have a different weight by volume, you may need to use more or less, which I showcased in my recent salt by taste video. I don't like to bust out measuring spoons all that much myself, so I use the phrase from Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. The water should be as salty as the sea. Meaning if you take a little sip of that water, it should taste pretty damn salty. So what you do is just add your salt in, make sure you cool off the water before you sip it, take a sip, and if it's tasting nice and salty, you're good to go and add your pasta. And this is just a rough guideline. If you find that your salt is too salty, just take a mental note of that and apply a little bit less next time. One more small thing that you may want to keep in mind when you are preparing your salt for your pasta water is how salty your sauce is going to be that you're going to be using that pasta for. If it's something like a pasta puttanesca made with, olives and capers and anchovies, it's a very salty sauce, you may want to dial back the salt in your pasta water a little bit too. But for the majority of pastas, you can use the same amount of salt that you always use and you will have great results. Let's do a quick recap. Add and dissolve your salt in the boiling water prior to adding your pasta. The water should be as salty as the sea, so add enough salt to your water until you reach that point. 2 tablespoons for every gallon of water is the rough guideline. And then 3, how salty is the sauce that you were using going to be, but you don't need to worry about that much. So that will wrap it up for the videos, ladies and gents, and let me know what you think of the format. I don't think this is going to be an every week thing, but maybe every other week or something like that. And I think it's going to be a fun way to just make these little tips videos so we can incorporate them into our day-to-day cooking and learn some new things that we may not have noticed before. And if you have any topics that you would specifically like me to cover in this series, I'm already starting a list together, so send them my way and we will cover all the cooking tips that we can get to. So if you guys have enjoyed the content, found it valuable, definitely drop me a like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.